Hi, I'm Laura Babcock, and welcome to the OShow. This is our Hamilton Center by-election special. We reached out to the community, and you told us that you wanted to have some interviews done with the candidates. And so we reached out to all four parties, and three of the candidates have agreed to do an interview here on the OShow. And so we're going to play them for you unedited, where we ask them each three questions, the same questions, and then I, of course, pose a couple of follow-ups depending on the conversation. This is your opportunity to compare and contrast, and hopefully to get out there and to vote if you're eligible to do so in this by-election. It's so important that we engage in our democracy. So sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the OShow, Lucia Yanintuono. She is the Green Party candidate for Hamilton Centre. And let me start with the same questions that I'm using with all of the candidates. And that is, what are the issues that you think are most important to the voters in Hamilton Centre in this by-election?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm just going to say thank you so much for having me on. I said before we started recording, I watched the OShow a fair bit, and this is really cool to be on here. When we talk about issues facing Hamilton, we've got a lot, right? Front lines of homelessness, stop sprawl. We've got a housing affordability crisis. We've got a cost of living crisis. But I think the thing that people are maybe missing that ties all of that together, these are all problems that are going to get worse on our current track. Climate change exacerbates all these existing issues. And the thing that brought me to want to get involved with this is my role in the community as a climate activist, my passion for that, and then also connecting it to all of these social issues that we see. They don't come with name tags that say, hi, I'm the climate crisis, I brought you $9 lettuce. But food security is yet another example of something that we need to think about and be prepared for. So in pulling all of this together, the Green Party really focuses on a few major issues that I think really resonate with Hamiltonians. One of which is the green belt and stop sprawl, our urban boundary that we wanted to fix and the province overturned. I'm one of many people who have been out there weekend after weekend rallying, and our voice is not being heard, right? The legislature continues, and it's thanks to opposition parties in the legislature like the Green Party that Hamilton's voice is getting in there, and I think that is another reason to support this initiative. We want to get away from car-centric communities in general, investing in things like public transit. This is a huge deal here in Hamilton, where we've got an LRT coming. We've got bus infrastructure, which is getting a redesign this year. We've got a huge push for cycling. Hamiltonians are thinking about how we move around. They're thinking, man, I really want to be able to get to where I need to go in 15 minutes or less, right? We want to be able to walk there. We want to be able to take active transport, public transport. This is another area where the Green Party has been a huge champion, and it's something that's top of mind here in Hamilton. The last point that I want to touch on is homelessness and actually addressing the housing affordability crisis. It ties into that first piece about the Greenbelt. The more that we do sprawl development, it builds big McMansions over farmland, over wetland that we need to service, that we need to pay for. John Paul Danko led an awesome initiative of the Hamilton City Council to formally reject this urban boundary expansion, saying that it's going to make life worse for everybody in Hamilton if it goes ahead. To get affordable housing, we need to build in areas that are already serviced. Lots of people have highlighted, we have vacant land here within the city. We need missing middle housing. We need affordable housing. We don't need 4,000 square foot single family homes for 3 people. That is not the solution to the housing crisis. I don't, I'm trying to remember what the wording of the original question was.
Just about what you think the issues are that the voters in Hamilton Centre are concerned with.
Most passionate about.
Yeah, so let me raise one with you because it's making the news in the city at the time that we're doing these recordings, and that is policing. While it is a local responsibility municipally to approve a police budget, police do fall under provincial jurisdiction as well. Do you have any thoughts around that and around how the people of Hamilton Centre, if that's an issue for them?
Well, I was at that city council meeting virtually yesterday night. I was one of the delegates that unfortunately we're going to be rescheduled, but you know, I think that issue and that protest is very important. I think it raises a lot. I'm happy to be rescheduled because policing, Policing is a priority choice, is what they highlighted. And when we talk about priorities, I am really proud to represent a party that's talking about investing in mental health, covering mental health and addiction care under OHIP, decriminalizing drug use, looking at affordable housing to end homelessness, because these are the types of issues where currently we're calling for police to respond. And we know, and they know that that's hard. That's hard work. That's not their wheelhouse, right? So we need to invest in the root causes, not in the response. We want to be proactive and not reactive.
What is it, do you think, in this is question number two, what is it, do you think, in your experience or your values that makes you the right person or the ideal person to represent the voices of Hamilton Centre when it comes to the issues that they care about?
First and foremost, it's the party that I'm standing up for. I am really, really proud of the Green three core values, right? Caring, connected, climate ready. It's about making a caring society, leveling the playing field, putting the supports in place for a systemic overhaul that's going to raise the people that need it. We also need to balance that with climate action. That's what the whole climate justice movement is about. Recognizing that people, for example, in our North End, I went door knocking over there, and folks were highlighting air pollution, folks were highlighting water pollution, and then they were also highlighting the fact, one person said to me at the door, I don't live here because I want to, I live here because I have to, because it's cheap and I can afford to live here. That is really powerful, right? This just brings home a lot of what we need to do when we talk about transforming into a sustainable community. It's not only where we live, it's not only how we get around, it's our whole system, right? I think that what is really needed is somebody who can bring that all together. And I think that I am somebody who's doing my best to do that, and I'm representing the party that does that the best.
I don't know you particularly well. I've had because some of the other candidates running in this race, full disclosure, have been active in the community for a long time. I know them quite well. Is there something about your own background in terms of experiences that you've had or skills that you have that maybe people in Hamilton aren't as aware of that you might want to share?
Sure. So I started to become pretty active in the environmental and climate movement in Hamilton, I guess for the past couple of years. COVID put a little bit of a damper on starting to actually get out there in person. A lot of the meetings started out on Zoom. But I moved to Hamilton about 8 years ago. Originally, I grew up in Muskoka. So I grew up not in a city. And when I first moved to Hamilton, I didn't recognize how much potential there is here. It took a couple years to get to know the city, get to know the parks, the trails, the people, and to see, wow, we are really unique, right? Like if you go to Mississauga, you are going to be probably an hour and a half in any cardinal direction in your car before you get to like a thriving community with distinct character and some green space. We have that right here, and we're a city of over 500,000 people, right? It's really cool. My frustration is being part of groups like Hamilton 350, being part of groups like Stop Sprawl, going out to these events, advocating for the right things, even getting our municipal councillors advocating for the right things. And then we run up over and over again. It's like hitting this wall of provincial jurisdiction. You know, if we talk about the urban tree canopy strategy, that's something I feel very passionately about. I just had to sit here and watch my next door neighbor take down 3 mature trees this fall, which was pretty painful, right? You know, but when we talk about that, we say, yeah, this is great. This is an awesome thing. Hamilton's got an awesome plan. Let's go advocate for it. And then we realize, oh, shoot, we can't. Provincial jurisdiction says they only need 5% parkland, right? So I think on a personal level, being part of organizing, seeing that frustration that we can't move things forward because politicians are throwing up roadblocks, it made me feel like, okay, well, let's go into politics. Let's get to the root source of the problem. People want to do the right things, but we need to make sure our systems facilitate that.
So let's talk about the party politics then, because you keep going to party and to party values. Given your party's presence at Queen's Park, what do you think they need to be doing differently or better to be able to address these issues that people in Hamilton Centre care about?
I want to highlight that I'm really proud of how much we punch above our weight right? Like with one member, we have basically been called the unofficial opposition, right? I think that what we can continue to do and what we should continue to do is to better bridge with local community groups. And it's a challenge because most local nonprofit groups can't be partisan, right? I definitely don't bring my partisan hat into my organizing work. But I think that having people who wear both hats is something that we as a party need to invest in to connect better with people on the ground. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, was to help bridge that and make those connections. And I hope that we can replicate this over and over and over. I think the other thing that I want to highlight is that we have long been talking about the issues which are currently a hot topic, right? Like greenbelt and sprawl. This is the wheelhouse. This is what we are experts in policy on. And if we as Hamiltonians want to send a message to Queen's Park that we're done with business as usual, right? We want to take real systemic action to make life more affordable, to make life more sustainable. We need to adopt green policies, and we need to promote a green movement.
So when it comes to selecting somebody who can make things happen at Queen's Park, you mentioned Party of One. Right now, at the time of taping, your leader is being asked if maybe he will move over to lead the Liberal Party. We don't know yet where that's going to go, but is it do you think an obstacle for voters to think, well, you know what, will there really be a Green Party presence at Queen's Park? Is this a vote that is going to make a difference? Can you address that?
Yeah, for sure. I want to address this in two pieces because I think there's two separate things we're talking about here. One is, this is a by-election, right? So when we talk about sending this vote in this by-election, unfortunately, the balance of power is not going to shift. I wish that this vote could get Doug Ford's premiership changed, but it's not. He's still going to be the premier the day after Hamilton's vote. So this vote is a message, right? That's what we can achieve here, is what type of message is Hamilton sending to Queen's Park? And I think to that effect, a green vote is about as strong a message as you can send. The second point, will there be a Green Party, right? I have absolutely no doubt there will be a Green Party. I am committed. Everyone I've talked to is committed. A lot of parties will say that, oh, I'm a grassroots party. We actually are a grassroots party, right? We don't have any big donors that we need to keep happy. It is a bunch of people who care a whole lot, and that's not going anywhere. The other thing that's not going anywhere is the green movement, as climate crisis starts to impact more and more of our lives. All right, it's pretty scary, but we're on track for 2 degrees of warming in 2035, right? I'm going to be 39 years old, and it is going to be a lot to deal with. I know you've got kids that are, I think, a bit younger than I am, right? Like this is very real. This is not some far away 2100 stuff that we're talking about. And it is going to continue to grow as a movement, as unfortunately our inaction and the costs of our inaction start to become more and more apparent.
In our last minute that we have, Lucia, is there anything that you'd like to say to the voters of Hamilton Centre that we haven't covered off? Do you have any kind of message for them as we wrap up?
I do. I have a quick one, which is I want you to think about vision. I want you to think about what our sustainable city could look like. We have a vision. I encourage you to go check it out. And I want you to think beyond just, okay, the world's going to look like it does today, but hopefully I'll get a couple extra dollars from a government program. Like, actually think about how we could change our city and our province.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Lucia, for doing the OShow. And as I say to every candidate that runs for office, I appreciate that you do that. I think that's a commendable thing. And I wish you the best with this by-election. And the point here of the OShow of doing these interviews, of course, is to try to promote engagement. It's so important that people who can vote get out and vote. So
absolutely, get out and vote. Get out and vote. It doesn't, like our voice, no matter what you want to say, it needs to be heard.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing the OShow. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Laura.
Welcome to the OShow, Sarah Jama. Sarah is the NDP candidate running in Hamilton Centre in the by-election. Sarah, let me start by asking you what issues you think are most important to the voters of Hamilton Centre.
Hey, Laura, thank you for having me on the OShow. Always love coming back. I would say that I've been knocking doors and talking to people in Hamilton Center since I was nominated on November 3rd. And the thing that I hear the most from the people that I've spoken to is our priorities are healthcare, housing, and climate. We know that with healthcare, we're in a situation where Doug Ford is working hard to privatize our services and people can't access what they need. With housing, we know that Hamilton has become one of the top 3 most expensive places to live in Canada. And instead of prioritizing housing, people have to choose between food and rent. And we know that with climate, people in Hamilton are against sprawl, against endless sprawl. And instead of listening, Doug Ford is continuing to give up our greenbelt to, secure the pockets of developers. And I would say that these are the top issues in this election.
One of the issues that you haven't mentioned, and is a big story, at least the day we're taping this, so I'll need to ask you about it, is policing. And we know that the police budget is a municipal item. However, there is a provincial role in policing. Is that an issue that you're hearing about at all at the door? Do you have any thoughts on that as a provincial issue?
Yeah, obviously, I think that all public budgets are up for scrutiny. I think when it comes to policing, we continue to see issues where everyday people are left behind in terms of the investments that public officials continue to make. While every year we're debating like massive inflated police budgets. So that's not a surprise to me. What I will say is I'm running to be the next MPP so that I can take on issues that matter to folks on the ground. And I really want to make sure that we're resisting the Ford government's attempt to privatize services, to put forward austerity measures, and make sure that we're reinvesting in communities. We're reimagining what community safety looks like in the legislature from that position.
When you mentioned that your affordability is one of the top 3, can you talk a little bit more about that? We've heard lots of people say that affordability and affordable housing is #1 and Hamilton's the 3rd most expensive city in North America. But are we seeing any real tangible plans? So what would you do, or what would you want to focus on to make that situation better for voters in Hamilton Center?
Yeah, I think the Ford government has done a lot of work to put forward legislation that is anti-renter and that is making it hard for people to survive. Being part of the official opposition for me means, pushing for rent control, doing what we can and what we've continued to see from the party to make sure that the voices of renters, the voices of folks who are struggling to get by are represented in the House. I would want to see a focus on supporting renters. I want to see a focus on making sure that the Ford government doesn't continue to get away with, lining the pockets of developers and not focusing on supporting people.
So what is it, do you think, in your experience or your values, Sarah, that makes you the right candidate to represent the issues of concern to people of Hamilton Center?
Yeah, I would say that I've spent the better part of a decade here in Hamilton Center, really investing in trying to make Hamilton Center a better place to live and exist. As executive director of an organization called the Disability Justice Network of Ontario, we've run programs, and I've really tried hard to create systems where we take care of one another. So whether that was feeding people during the pandemic, supporting with the creation of vaccine clinics, working with people on the ground to make sure we're creating spaces where we can exist. But it would be a shame and a difficulty to not take this moment electorally to make sure that we're representing those voices of community in the House. We're seeing a mass attack on working class people. We're seeing a mass attack from the Ford government on everyday people's ability to exist and get by. And I want to see, as an ex-MPP here in Hamilton Center, the voices of community represented in the legislature.
So, Sarah, how do you see being able to achieve that? You are coming up against a majority Ford government. This is a by-election, so the balance of power isn't going to change as an outcome of this vote. So, how do you see actually being able to deliver on some of that, to make the voters at home feel as though there is a way to get that message across to the Ford government?
Mm-hmm. The NDP has formed the official opposition twice. We've out fundraised other parties. It's very clear that everyday people do see the NDP as the way forward in the legislature. For me, being part of the official opposition means we're continuing to delay and resist the legislative tactics that Ford continues to put forward in the House. And I think that joining the official opposition puts us in a great place to continue to do that. We're strong, and people continue to join this movement every day. There's a good legacy here at Hamilton Center of New Democrats, and we have a brilliant, new, and hardworking leader in Marit Stiles. I'm really excited to bolster the official opposition and to be a part of that process.
What do you say to some people who might look at the legacy of Hamilton Center being a very strong, an NDP stronghold, and say, you know what, if we keep electing people who end up in even the official opposition, we don't get a seat at the table with government? What would be your response to that?
Well, look, Laura, I'm an organizer. I'm not just going to plan to sit around and sit on my hands until the next general. The party needs me there because I want to form government in the next cycle. So I'm running not just to sit in the seat. I want to make sure that we're connecting with neighbors, we're connecting with people across this riding to really connect them to processes at the House and making sure that we're signing up members and that people are engaging. I want to challenge the disengagement from electoralism that we're seeing and really build a movement within and with the party. And that means not buying into the political theater of, the everyday crises that Ford continues to put forward. I want to focus, put my head down, grow the party, and win the next general election. That's what I'm here to do.
So that's what your strategy would be going in if you get elected. Let me ask you the third question that I'm asking all of the candidates, and that is, what would you have your party do better or differently to be able to address some of the issues that you've identified as being important for the voters of Hamilton Center?
I said this earlier, but the party has done a great job of, fundraising and forming official opposition, and continuing to do that. What I think I could bring to the party and support with is a greater understanding of how to engage with general membership and encouraging people to get involved. I think we need to bring new voices to the table, and connect with people door to door. I'm not going to campaign. Laura, you know this about me. I'm a hard worker. I don't plan to just campaign over the course of the next 4 weeks. I'm going to continue to knock doors. I've been making phone calls directly and have spoken to thousands of people, either on the phones or at doors. I'm going to continue to engage with people to make sure that they are participating democratically and that we're ready to take this next step and to form government.
So in the interim, though, of your party, before the next cycle, we have just really started into the majority. And the reason why we're having a by-election is because our new mayor, Andrea Horvath, won the seat June 2nd, I think it was, or June 4th, and then decided, and I believe officially in August, that she was going to run for mayor. And that has started to cause this by-election. So there's still going to be several years left of a Ford majority to work with. So within that time frame, what do you think the party, and you have a new leader, we know the Liberal Party at the time of this taping is still looking for their leader, and has even made some overtures to the leader of the Green Party. So interesting stuff happening at Queen's Park. But you have a new leader. You mentioned Marit Stiles, and she has put forward some of the priorities that she has. But what do you think the NDP can do maybe better or differently to be able to have an impact as the official opposition while there is such a majority with the Ford government and some of the tactics that you itemized already, Sarah? Like, do you have an idea on how the party can position itself maybe more effectively?
Yeah, look, the people have been disenfranchised from the process of government and elections. We see voter turnout across the board declining. And I think what the party can do better is engaging with people between elections to build our base and to hear from people on the ground. And I think that that's what I'm prepared to do. And in talking with Marit, like, I didn't know her well before all of this, but she came down to knock doors with me. And I got to know her and I got to see her on the doors in Hamilton Center. It wasn't just a photo op. She's someone who really does intend to listen and engage with folks. And, you know, she introduced herself as like Team Sarah. She's not just there to be leader of the party. She's there to also listen to people and new ideas. And I really believe that I can work with her and the party can focus on making sure that people feel heard. I really do think that the focus for the party will and should be connecting with those who've been disenfranchised. We're a working class party, but the voices of working class people have been just attacked maliciously by the Ford government over and over and over again. So I think pausing, rebuilding the party, and really taking time to connect with people on the ground is the next steps that I see.
In the last few minutes that we have, Sarah, is there anything that you want to say to the voters of Hamilton Center, something that we haven't covered, or a reason why they should get in the voting booths and cast a vote for you?
Yeah, we're in a political moment right now where we can choose between the way things have always been and actually sending someone to Queen's Park who has a great idea of what's the issues are here in Hamilton Center. And I think I'm the person, I think I've committed myself over the better part of a decade to doing hard work and connecting people to processes of government and also just responding when I've been asked to and engaging with difficult issues. I don't run from difficulty. I'm a fighter, and we need those kinds of voices at Queen's Park. And that's what I'm prepared to do.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sarah Jama, for doing the OShow. As you know, we're doing these candidate interviews to get engagement up in the Hamilton Center by-election. Everybody, please get out there and vote. And as I do with all candidates, I want to thank you for getting into this race and to being somebody who is putting themselves out there in public office. I always respect that. And so I wish you all the best in the election. And thank you so much for doing the OShow.
Thank you.
Welcome to the OShow, Deirdre Pike. You are, of course, the Liberal candidate in the Hamilton Center by-election. And I want to start, Deirdre, by finding out from you what you think are the issues that are most important to the voters in Hamilton Center in this election.
Thank you. Thanks, Laura. You know, it's a privilege to be the candidate here in Hamilton Center, a place where I've lived for 3 decades and am very familiar with the issues that matter. And currently, I know that the top issues here, we are concerned with the green belt, with the environment, with protecting our creation. We are concerned with people who languish in poverty. We are concerned with the lack of affordability and the need to have a floor for people from which to start and from which to grow. And the concerns around healthcare, I have heard these at the door and on the phone, whether it's for babies and children or adults and seniors at McMaster's Children's Hospital or the General. These are current and pressing issues, and we need to address those, immediately. The affordability for people in this area. And so those are some of the top issues for sure. Education is not out of the woods at all, and in fact, has been in just in a tumult for 3 years now. So there are so many things that need attention and need a positive voice and solutions at the table, and that's what I'm planning to bring to Queen's Park.
One of the issues that you haven't mentioned, but is certainly making headlines the day that we're taping this particular OShow, is the issue around the police budget. And while that's a municipal issue, certainly policing falls under a provincial jurisdiction as well. Do you have any thoughts? Are you hearing anything from the people in Hamilton Center around the issue of policing in the province?
Yes, absolutely. This is an area where for a long time, I have been talking about the need to reallocate police funding so that we are able to do what one of the banners said in City Hall last night was fund community, not police. And like you, Laura, I also believe in not an either or situation here. And I believe that we need more funding for community supports. We need to continue to fund police. And so I hear that the slogan is problematic. I hear the hope that we're all thinking the same way, that we must have both good security and safety in our communities. And we know that some of that really has to be prioritized and delivered by community-based agencies.
You mentioned that education is not out of the woods in terms of an issue. We all saw what happened with the teaching assistants and the notwithstanding clause, and the whole country having to stand up to stop that from going forward with Minister Lecce and with Ford, Premier Ford. We are still coming into, I would imagine, more disputes around teachers and their contracts and compensation and other issues around education. How important do you think that is for the voters in Hamilton Centre, Deirdre? And what are your thoughts in terms of how to approach the issues that are coming?
Well, it's crucial. I mean, our children deserve a world-class education, and we had a system that was known around the world for its good operation and the outcomes for children, and we need to get back to that. And so the front page of the Hamilton Spectator today has a child sent home yesterday because there wasn't an EA to attend to his needs. And so this is a situation that is crucial. It's critical now. And we need to be bringing the voices. It's clearly in Hamilton Centre. We have so many great educational facilities here at every level. And but certainly we need to, I want to be the one bringing those voices, those concerns and solutions, because Hamilton Centre and Hamilton as a whole is filled with voices of people who have innovative solutions. And we've seen that here in this community when people rally together. And that's the kind of positive voice and perspective I want to bring to Queen's Park.
Well, let me move to our second question then, and that is specifically about you. What is it in your experience or your values that you feel makes you the voice for Hamilton Centre? Why should they elect you to go to Queen's Park to speak for them on these issues we've discussed?
Right. Well, I'd say that, this voice that I have of experience, of compassion, and real passion is informed by the voices of people here through my work over 20 years at the Social Planning and Research Council. I bring a positive approach. I bring collaboration. You were part of the formation, really, of the Women's Housing Planning Collaborative, a kind of model that works really well to bring innovative solutions around funding and system change. And that requires bringing all people to the table, whether we agree or not, whether we are from the outside seen as competitors, perhaps for funding. In Hamilton, we have social housing providers that come together under one umbrella called Hamilton is Home. And this kind of model is the very thing that I've worked on with and through over the last number of decades. And I think that that's what is needed to make the change this province needs and that will impact Hamilton Centre the most.
And so how does that model translate then to the provincial space? Municipally makes a lot of sense. There's not as much partisanship, and there's the ability to get the people at the table, as is often done here in this community. But what does that look like in the context of being an MPP at Queen's Park for you? How do you see that translating?
I've watched at the federal level here in Hamilton, the representatives through across party lines come together. They have a Hamilton caucus at the federal level. And I plan to bring that to provincial politics in Hamilton, working with Sandy Shaw and with the other MPPs across party lines to say, all of the MPPs to say, this is what we need to do together. We are in this together, are we not? And to be the some of that glue that might bring those voices together. And I think that will have a big impact at Queen's Park. We have to move away from always an oppositional voice calling out what's wrong and bringing forward what is right and what could be better. And that's what we're so good at here in Hamilton.
So my final question to you then, Deirdre, is in regards to your party at Queen's Park, because unlike if you were running for municipal office, our viewers would understand that you are part of a party if you get elected. And the party sets the priorities, they set, if you will, talking points, they set the tone of how they're going to operate oppositionally or collaboratively or any other way. Right now, given the state of your party, without a leader at the moment, and obviously facing a majority with the progressive conservatives across the aisle there at Queen's Park, what would you want to see your party do differently or better to be able to be in a position to address these issues so that you can speak for the people in Hamilton Centre?
Mhm. We had a debrief session after the last election, and we heard really clearly from Liberal members across Ontario that, for example, one important thing is we want nomination contests. We want to be able to choose our candidates from the community, and we had that. You know, I had a worthy opponent and became the candidate, and that's happening at the leadership level for the Ontario Liberal Party. We have four contenders at least, and that shows the excitement that has come out, frankly, of the last election, which, while it didn't translate into seats, we picked up the most votes. Compared to 2018, we held our own, while the NDP lost 750,000 votes, 800,000 votes, and the Conservatives lost almost 400,000. This, party politics is cyclical. And so we are in the upswing of a good cycle. But one thing that I know is happening in the very near future, March 3rd, we have over 1,000 Liberals coming to Hamilton to help choose the process for choosing that next leader. And so all of that shows me that we really are a party that works collaboratively. We come together. We are going to have a competitive leadership process and contest, and that gives me hope. And so I see that will translate also into the way that members work with one another, and again across party lines.
Can I ask you then, you talk about a competitive leadership and that there's these great candidates and there's going to be a meeting. Can you address the letter then that was sent to the leader of the Green Party asking if he would be interested in being the leader of the Liberal Party provincially?
I think that, this is a situation where we know we have a great party and we want to have a great leadership contest. And so we want all people involved that we can that would bring something good to our party. And the fact is that Mike Schreiner has not been a stranger in terms of his relationship to the Ontario Liberals, in terms of forming the Green Belt. He was a voice that had was an instrument in bringing that forward. So he, to me, is just another good contender should he choose to do this. But really, I think that the way we move this forward is by listening to Ontario Liberals as we did, which was let us have an open and transparent leadership contest. Well, that's sure open, isn't it? We know who, that there are names out there, and we're seeking all good contestants. And as one of the people already said, the more the merrier. And really, it does show an excitement and a hope for this party as we move forward. So I'm excited for it.
Let me give you a final minute here, Deirdre. Is there a particular position or plea or comment you'd like to make to the audience or who are considering who to vote for in this by-election? Because as you know, on the OShow, we're trying to raise engagement by doing these interviews. So is there anything you'd like to close off with?
I think that this riding really needs someone who has worked across the realm of social issues facing us, but also has an understanding of all of the people who live here, from whether it's from the various neighborhoods, incomes, the marginalization of various groups. We know that we have people here that have particular concerns and solutions to the issues that matter to them most. And I think that, I saw that around Bill 23. We brought people out from across the city to protest and to stand for something. And that's what I really think is most important. Hamilton Centre wants to elect someone who stands for something. And I stand for positive change, for inclusion of all voices, and for being someone who's going to be able to impact what's most needed for Hamilton Centre and for Ontario by working together. So please be sure to, if you want a positive voice and a positive, compassionate voice at Queen's Park with experience, vote for Deirdre Pike.
Thanks so much, Deirdre. That's about your 15 minutes. I appreciate you engaging with the OShow, and I'll say to all the candidates, best of luck, but most importantly, thank you for putting your name forward and engaging in our democracy. I always appreciate anyone who runs for public office. Thank you so much.
Privilege and an honor. Thank you.